If you need a good book or a few books to dive into this holiday season, there is an amazing author you need to know about. John Casey is here to tell us about his newest novel, Devolution, which is book one of a psychological spy thriller trilogy. Good morning.
Good morning, Kimberly.
How exciting.
Thank you, and thank you for having me today.
Thanks for being here. I love that you're from San Antonio. You're writing these books. You're so successful. Tell us a little bit about Devolution, because you said, again, it's book one of a psychological spy thriller trilogy, but how is that different from, say, a classical spy thriller book?
So, a good question. When I began writing Devolution, and it was always going to be a trilogy from the start, what I didn't want to do was to put another cliche, fast-paced, all-action type spy thriller out there on the street. What I wanted instead was to really develop the, the psyche and the character himself. The lead character's name is Michael Dolan, and to make it so interesting that it was just as important to the novel as the plot and all of the action that goes with that as well.
Now, this is not your first book. Your first published book was called Raw Thoughts, and it was completely different. We're talking complete 180, right?
Yes.
Then from Devolution.
Yes. So the neat story behind this is that I actually started writing Devolution first. And I got about 50 pages into it, and at the time I was working at the U.S. Embassy in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And I was unhappy with the character development. You know, I said I wanted that to be strong and an important part of the book. And I got frustrated and I just put it down. And I got bored, and I one day decided to write a poem. And it was just for fun. I'd never written a poem before, not even in high school. And I was also frustrated by a lot of the irksome things that happen to you in a second world country. My time there,
you were living in.
Right. My time there was fantastic. I love Ethiopia, but there are some things that bother you. And so I wrote this poem called Stupid, and it was a funny poem.
Right.
And I read it to a few people, and they laughed and they thought it was funny and they enjoyed it. And so I thought, I'm going to write some poetry to pass the time and then come back to the book later. And I ended up writing about 150 poems.
Oh.
And what
you were good at that.
And what I found was that after that first funny one, I really migrated towards evocative, very emotional poetry. And long story short, that evolved into Raw Thoughts.
Got it.
When that was done, I went back to Devolution.
And then back to Devolution, which, by the way, there will be a second and a third in the trilogy. So is there anything else you can tell us about it without giving everything away?
Yeah, I can do that. So the first book is Devolution. The second book is Evolution. In Devolution, the main character does a bit of a downward spiral mentally as he executed the mission. In Evolution, it kind of goes the other way, right? He turns the corner, and then in Revelation, it's a little bit more of a political thriller, actually. So.
Oh, I'm so excited. All right, so for more on John Casey and his trilogy and all of the books that he's written, you can go to johnjcasey.com, or you can follow him on social media. You'll have a Devolution book reading and book signing January 8th at the Twig Bookshop here in San Antonio. And if you would like to win a copy of Devolution, you can go to our website, watchdaytime.com, and enter to win there. Congratulations on all your success, John. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.